hello there, humans and earthlings, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, if you're lucky enough indeed to be doing it too. I'm Bushka, and today we're going to be talking about the Helsing, which is a lovely tank. Welcome back to channel, by the way. Just let's get the polite formalities out of the way. Welcome back to channel because this tank is broken, but still a lot of people who have had this tank for a long time have shamelessly driven it. And now that everyone else in the world is getting a chance to drive it, some of them have been saying it's ridiculous, this tank should not be available. And I have a hard time with that because I'm one of those guys who got this tank way back in the day and have been flogging people to a great degree. Every time I needed a win rate pickup, you could jump in this thing and do all kinds of nasty. And it's now become available again in crates. Look, I don't love crates, but I got to tell you, if you're going to be buying a crate tank, you'll be hard-pressed to find a better crate tank than this. This came in at number 2 on my most overpowered list that I did a while ago and was headed for the number 1 spot by Kenny Otsu, which is just broken in a whole other sense, and I won't go into that now. It's a tank that combines the best of both worlds. It's got incredible mobility, and it has massive DPM, damage per minute. 2632 DPM base when you get the bells and whistles rolling with it. But it does that with a 400 alpha gun. So, and even better than that, it diversifies the risk of missing on that 400 alpha gun by having a 0.32 dispersion on its top shelf when you're running your rations and everything, and then again lowering the risk on missing by having the payload delivered in 2 sections of 200 alpha each. So you have a tank that has an absolute hilarious cup running over situation. You can play peekaboo because you can deliver 400 alpha at a tier where 400 alpha is legitimately a large amount of alpha. You can play sniper because you have 0.32 dispersion and you have very reasonable pen numbers. Or you can, role play it as a flanking medium because you have very nice damage per minute output and you can quite often just burn stuff down. It also is not a bad armoured tank. It is a very well armoured tank. It is not poorly armoured at all. The upper glacis particularly will give you fits and nightmares if you can move and rotate that chassis. You can really create some incredible angles with the upper glacis. So, what are the weak points of the tank? Well, it's only got 1,000 hit points. Is that a weak point? Then it's not really, let's be honest. It doesn't traverse as well as a proper medium tank. I mean, is that a weak point? I don't think it's really got any weak points. And if you're looking for an idea on how to play the Helsing, you should understand that this is one of the tanks that there is really no limitation to the way you play this tank. In tier 7 matchups, you can even role play this tank as a pocket heavy because it has such a crazy awkward armor profile, and if you can side scrape it, then you can, get the odd bounce, pull out and hit him for 400. You've got no limitations on your playstyle, and that's a rarity amongst tanks. That FV4201 over there on the right, for instance, is an excellent hull down tank. It doesn't do very well side scraping, and it's not super quick, so it can't move around the battlefield. The Nashorn that you see there is a gun depression TD that's got a lovely weapon, but has to be super careful because of its poor armor profile. You understand that the point I'm making here is that there is usually pros and cons. The pros on this tank are absolutely dominant. The cons are absolutely minimal. That makes it a wonderful tank to drive, a great tank to play, and a tank that is, quite frankly, way too strong for its tier. It's a tier 8 tank at tier 9. I mean, you can pen Borsigs with your HE for enormous amounts of money, for enormous amounts of damage. You can, your gun is not inaccurate. That's the thing. You can see, and the way you move around the battlefield is hilarious. Oh, by the way, if you want to send your replays in, that's the instructions down there. Send them to bushkagaming@gmail.com. Include the tank type damage and particulars in the subject line so it's easy for me to find it. And fingers crossed you end up featuring the replays like my amigo Clone Trooper here. Now, Clone Trooper is playing this tank really, really well. One of the biggest problems you'll have with this tank is if you tend too much towards the heavy line. You have mobility, and you have DPM, and you have wonderful alpha. So you really want to maintain your hit point pool for as long as possible. You can get bounces, as you can see there, but what you're going to be bouncing is quick shots that you draw when you poke out. You're actually trying to draw those shots out as Clone Trooper is there without exposing yourself. Now, he went to try and get that famous dip shot you get with your gun depression. Didn't come off. Look at this gun work. I mean, it can out-trade heavy tanks because of its just raw DPM potential. This SU-100Y is in a very tough place. And you can see how hard it is for him to get the shots into this Helsing. He's desperate to get the shots into the Helsing, and he just cannot get the gun there. And look at the return of fire from Clone Trooper. It is hilariously strong when trading. Trading hit points is an interesting thing for this tank because 400 alpha is so strong at this tier. An IS, for instance, has 400 alpha, but it's got a very derpy gun and it's got a very long aim time. You can poke out on a Comet. You can do 400 alpha, he can do 160, and then you pull back. And then the Comet might push up, and he gets another 160 in, and you get another 400 alpha into him. And you get the idea. That's hit point trading. The Helsing is brilliant at doing that, because 400 alpha at this tier is like 600 alpha at tier 10. It really is. The hit point pools on the tanks, that KV2 just there has 40% of its hit point pool, or more than 40% of its hit point pool would be 400 alpha. It's closer to 50% of its hit point pool is 400 alpha. So that allows play like this where you get late game, and as long as you've preserved your hit point pool, you can do some incredible things with the Helsing. And it's why I've always called it one of the most overpowered tanks in game. It has the ability to constantly win different forms of combat. Peekaboo, flank shots, sniping, hit point trades. just like, wow. It's you come around that corner on a Helsing, you better come with enough hit points in the pocket and enough bear shot loaded, or you are going back in a body bag. It is an absolutely brutal and ruthless, cold-hearted killer. Good work, Clone Trooper there. I'm going to show you one more replay. Now, I haven't done the Drac yet. I will do Dracs. I will do a Drac video. I mean, it's not like I don't get enough Drac footage. People love the Drac. Now, the Drac is the super fun, ramming, massive horsepower monster. But for me, this has always been the better tank. What the Drac does can be replicated on a smaller scale by a lot of different tanks. And what the Helsing does, there isn't another tank at this tier that does that. The 60 km/h speed limit, which we haven't really even talked about yet, enables this thing to straight line, just go crazy. And that means it can move around the battlefield so much more effectively than anything else that brings this kind of firepower to bear. That's HE in the back of the tank. Now, this MT-25 has bitten off way more than he can chew here. Have a look at this. I mean, that's just brutal. A tier 6 light tank dealing with a Helsing, it's a complete and utter joke. He is way outclassed. And it's that kind of... Yeah, that's cool. Let's make that trade. 69 damage for no more tank. And I'd be lying if I didn't say that it's not one of the most fun tanks in the game to play. You never feel like you're out of it in a Helsing. I've had 5.5k games in this tank before where all I've done is quite literally snipe. Because the gun is 0.32 dispersion. 0.32 dispersion is a really good gun at tier 7. Like, I can't emphasize that enough. And look at these trades. It's just nuts. Peekaboo. This is the essence of peekaboo. Not going out till there's one in the click, and there you go. This is a lovely way to play. I worry that there's going to be a lot of these tanks, and I'm not trying to up wargaming sales on crates, because if you've ever watched my footage of Helsing or any video that has included this tank in it, you would know I've been steadfast in calling this tank broken. I rated it number 2 on the OP list, which means, yeah, it's fairly freaking broken. The biggest issue people have is they're too aggressive in it, me included. You go and try and play it like a Tiger P, and really, you want to play this like an IS where no one sees you until you've got one in the spout. And then you pop out and you take a third of a heavy tank's hit point pool in one shot. More. I mean, if it's tier 6, it's going to get wrecked. That's a tier 7 TD. Oh, that's a tier 7 heavy tank there. He has... And see, that's what I mean about the risk factor of your shots. See how that was spread across 2 shots? So we miss with one. Just... That IS is... it's crazy, isn't it? That IS has the same alpha damage as this Helsing, but it does a lot less in terms of straight line speed. It does a lot less in terms of accuracy. It has a lot less in terms of, aim time. Look at how easy the Helsing got out of that trouble. Look, you just drop the hammer. 60 kilometers an hour, gone. So if you are looking for a crate to buy, Drac or Helsing, I would have to say I'd probably go the Helsing. But let's be brass tacks here. So many people had a go at me when I originally played this tank, and I got horrible RNG for the first 30 games, and I thought it wasn't that great. And they're saying, oh, I went and got the Drac because you said the Helsing wasn't the best tank that ever lived. And I'm like, well, if the worst thing that happens to your day is you get a Drac instead of a Helsing, colour me unsympathetic, because they're both broken and they're both hilarious to drive, and it's hard to make a case that the Drac might not be the most fun tank in the game at times. Anyway, I'm Bushka. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Thank you for supporting the channel. Well done, the shameless reroll, you monster of rock and roll. Thank you everyone who's taken part in the live streams and everything. There's going to be more of those, and look forward to talking to you guys very, very soon from a secret location. I can't say any more than that. Look after yourselves, and until next time, stay safe on the battlefield. Bye for now.